What if I told you that you could learn more, remember more, and get better grades by doing less traditional studying? I know that sounds impossible, but I accidentally discovered this system when I was completely burned out from studying. I started doing things that didn't feel like studying at all, and my grades actually improved. My understanding deepened, and I stopped hating learning. In this video, I'm revealing the 10 methods I use to study without actually studying. These aren't shortcuts or hacks. They're scientifically proven ways your brain actually learns better than sitting at a desk staring at notes for hours. If you're tired of traditional studying not working, hit that subscribe button. This might change everything you think you know about learning. Let's start with the most powerful one. Method 1. The teaching method. Explain it out loud. Here's the secret. You don't actually learn something until you can explain it to someone else. Instead of reading your notes over and over, pretend you're teaching the material to someone who knows nothing about it. Talk out loud. Explain the concepts. Use examples. Draw diagrams in the air. I do this while walking around my room, in the shower, driving to school, anywhere. I'm having full conversations with imaginary students, breaking down complex topics into simple terms. Here's why this works. When you teach something, your brain has to organize the information differently. You can't just memorize words. You have to actually understand the concepts well enough to explain them. And when you get stuck, that's where the real learning happens. The gaps in your explanation are exactly what you need to go back and review. Try this right now, with whatever you're studying. Close this video, pick one concept, and explain it out loud like you're teaching a friend. You'll immediately know what you actually understand, versus what you just think you understand. This one method alone improved my grades more than anything else I've ever done. Method. Do the Feynman Technique. Make it stupid simple. This is similar to teaching, but with a specific twist. Explain the concept so simply that a child could understand it. Take whatever complicated thing you're learning and break it down using the simplest possible words and analogies. For example, I had to learn about mitochondria in biology. Instead of memorizing powerhouse of the cell, I explained it like this. Mitochondria are like tiny batteries inside your cells that take food and turn it into energy your body can actually use. When you force yourself to simplify something, you're proving you understand it at a fundamental level. You're not just repeating what the textbook said. You're processing it and translating it. Write it down. Say it out loud. Make analogies. Use metaphors. Get creative. The sillier the better, because you'll remember it. If you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. And that's valuable information. Method 3. The casual conversation method. This one sounds weird, but it's incredibly effective. Talk about what you're learning in normal conversations with friends and family. Not in a studying way, but in a, hey, I learned something interesting today way. I'll be eating dinner and randomly say, did you know that? And then explain something I learned in class. Or I'll text my friend, okay, this is actually crazy, and explain a concept that clicked for me. Why does this work? Because you're practicing recall without the pressure of studying. You're making the information part of your regular life instead of keeping it locked in school mode. Plus, when you have to explain it to someone who wasn't in your class, you can't use jargon or assume they know the background. You have to make it interesting and understandable. And here's the bonus. Other people will ask questions you didn't think of, which deepens your understanding even more. Method 4. The connection game. Link everything. Your brain doesn't store information in isolated boxes. It stores information through connections and associations. So instead of trying to memorize facts individually, play a game where you connect everything you're learning to things you already know. Learning about the water cycle? Connect it to your morning routine. Learning about the French Revolution? Connect it to a movie you've seen. Learning about economic principles? Connect it to your part-time job. I make the connections as weird and random as possible, because that's what makes them memorable. For example, I learned about mitosis by connecting it to my mom doing laundry. The cell splits just like she separates clothes into different loads. The DNA replicates just like she has to wash multiple loads of the same type of clothes. Weird? Yes. Did I ever forget it? Nope. The stranger the connection, the more memorable it becomes. Method 5. The content consumption method. This is my favorite because it doesn't feel like studying at all. Watch YouTube videos, documentaries, or listen to podcasts about the topics you're learning. Not educational content specifically made for students. Real content made by people who are passionate about the subject. If you're studying history, watch historical dramas or YouTube deep dives. If you're studying science, Watch science channels that make it entertaining. If you're studying literature, listen to podcasts analyzing the books. This works because you're getting the same information from a different angle. The textbook gives you one perspective. The teacher gives you another. But content creators explain things in ways that are designed to be interesting and engaging. I've learned more about psychology from YouTube than I ever did from my textbook. The textbook made it boring. YouTube made it fascinating. Plus, when you're watching something entertaining, your brain is relaxed. And a relaxed brain learns better than a stressed brain. Method 6. The physical movement method. This one's backed by serious science. Your brain learns better when your body is moving. I study while walking. I pace around my room. I bounce a ball. I do simple exercises. I go for walks while listening to lectures or explaining concepts out loud. Research shows that physical movement increases blood flow to the brain, which improves memory and cognitive function. Movement also helps you stay alert and reduces the mental fatigue that comes from sitting still for hours. Some of my best studying happens on walks. I'm not sitting at a desk. I'm not looking at notes. I'm just moving and thinking about what I learned. And if you really want to supercharge this, study in different locations. Your brain associates information with the environment where you learned it. So if you study the same material in multiple places while moving, you create multiple mental anchors for that information. Method 7. The sleep learning method. This sounds like pseudoscience, but it's not what you think. You can't learn new information while you're asleep, but you can dramatically improve retention by reviewing information right before bed. Here's what I do. 10 minutes before I go to sleep, I do a quick mental review of what I learned that day. Not deep studying, just a quick run-through of the main concepts. Why does this work? Because sleep is when your brain consolidates memories. Whatever you were thinking about before you fell asleep gets priority processing during the night. I used to stay up late cramming, then go to bed immediately. Now I stop studying 30 minutes before bed, relax, then do a quick 10-minute review right before I sleep. The difference in retention is insane. I wake up remembering things I reviewed the night before without even trying. Method 8. The story method. Make it narrative. Your brain is wired for stories, not facts. Instead of memorizing a list of events, dates, or concepts, turn them into a story with characters, conflict, and resolution. For history, this is obvious, but you can do this with anything. Math formulas become characters in a story. Scientific processes become adventures. Economic concepts become drama. I learned the order of operations in math by creating a story about a kingdom where certain operations had more power than others. Parentheses were the king, exponents were the queen, multiplication and division were the princes, and addition and subtraction were the peasants. Ridiculous? Absolutely. Did I ever forget the order of operations? Never. Stories stick because they're emotional and sequential. Your brain naturally remembers things that follow a narrative structure. Method 9. The practice in real life. Method: this is the ultimate study without studying technique. Use what you're learning in real situations. Learning a language? Change your phone settings to that language. Learning math? Calculate tips and split bills manually. Learning about nutrition? Apply it to your meal planning. Learning about physics? Notice it everywhere around you. When you start seeing your coursework in the real world, it stops being abstract information and becomes practical knowledge. I started noticing psychology concepts in my everyday interactions, marketing principles in advertisements, physics in sports, chemistry in cooking. Once you start looking for it, you'll see what you're learning everywhere. And every time you notice it in real life, you're reinforcing that knowledge without sitting down to study. Method 10. The spaced exposure method. This is the opposite of cramming, and it's scientifically proven to be way more effective. Instead of studying for 3 hours straight, expose yourself to the material in tiny doses throughout your day. I have flashcards on my phone that I look at while waiting in line. I have voice memos of key concepts I listen to while getting ready. I have sticky notes with formulas in places I'll see them randomly. These micro exposures add up, and because they're spaced out, your brain has time to process and consolidate the information between exposures. It's like watering a plant a little bit every day versus dumping all the water on it once a week. Consistent small doses are better than occasional large doses. The best part? None of these micro sessions feel like studying. They're just part of my day. Method 11. The question everything method. Instead of trying to memorize answers, spend your time thinking of questions. After a lecture or reading, don't immediately try to review the content. Instead, write down questions about it. What confused you? What would you want to know more about? What connections can you make? What would you ask the professor if you could? This shifts your brain from passive reception to active engagement. Then throughout the day, think about those questions, not in a formal study session, just while you're doing other things. Your brain will work on those questions in the background. Often, I'll randomly figure out the answer to a question I wrote down hours earlier, just because my brain kept processing it subconsciously. This method turns studying into a puzzle you're trying to solve rather than a chore you have to complete. Method 12, the teaching what you don't know method. This is the most counterintuitive one, but it works incredibly well. Teach concepts you don't fully understand yet. Seriously, tell your friend, I'm learning about this thing, and I don't totally get it yet, but let me try to explain what I think it means. Why does this work? Because teaching forces you to organize your thoughts, and when you get something wrong, your friend will usually correct you or ask a question that helps you realize where your understanding is off. I've learned so many things by explaining them incorrectly to someone and having them say, wait, that doesn't make sense. That moment of confusion is where real learning happens. You're actively working through your misunderstandings instead of just hoping they'll magically clear up. The philosophy shift here is the fundamental mindset change that makes all of this work. Stop thinking of learning as something that only happens when you sit down to study. Learning happens all the time, everywhere, through everything you do. Traditional studying is passive. You're trying to force information into your brain through repetition and willpower, but your brain learns best through active engagement, teaching, explaining, questioning, multiple exposures in different contexts, physical movement and spatial variety, emotional connections and stories, real-world application relaxed, curious exploration when you shift from I need to study for 3 hours to I need to engage with this material in various ways. Throughout my day, everything changes. You stop dreading studying because you're not really studying anymore. You're just thinking about interesting things in interesting ways. The actual system I use. Let me show you what a typical day looks like for me now. Morning. While getting ready, I listen to a 10-minute podcast or YouTube video related to what I'm learning. During commute, I explain concepts out loud to myself like I'm teaching a class. Between classes, I have micro-review sessions on my phone. 5 minutes here and there. Lunch. I bring up something interesting I learned in casual conversation. Afternoon, I watch content related to my subjects while relaxing. Evening, I go for a walk and mentally review everything I learned that day. Before bed, quick 10-minute review of main concepts while lying down. Notice what's missing. Traditional sit at desk with textbook and notes studying. I still do that sometimes, but it's maybe 20% of my learning instead of 100%, and my grades are better than they've ever been. My understanding is deeper, and I don't hate learning anymore. The hard truth? This approach requires a mindset shift that some people aren't ready for. You have to genuinely become curious about what you're learning. You have to be willing to engage with the material, even when you're not being forced to. If you just want to memorize enough to pass a test and then immediately forget it, traditional cramming might be faster. But if you want to actually learn things, understand them deeply, and remember them long-term, you have to make learning part of your life instead of a separate chore. The students who do best aren't the ones who study the hardest. They're the ones who think about what they're learning all the time, from different angles, in different contexts. They're the ones who genuinely find their subjects interesting, or at least make them interesting through creative engagement. You can force yourself to study for hours and hate every minute, or you can integrate learning into your daily life in ways that don't feel like suffering. The choice is yours. Your action plan. Pick 3 methods from this video. Just 3. Method 1, teaching out loud. Method 2, something else from the list. Method 3, one more. Try them for 1 week. Just 1 week. Don't abandon traditional studying completely. Just supplement it with these methods and see what happens. I promise you'll be surprised by how much more you retain and how much less painful the process becomes. If this changed how you think about studying, drop a like and let me know in the comments which methods you're going to try. And if you want more real, practical advice on learning, productivity, and getting better grades without sacrificing your sanity, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Now stop watching videos about studying and go actually engage with whatever you're supposed to be learning. Use one of these methods. Start right now. I'll see you in the next video.